Tuesday, June the 3rd. Our lesson word for you today is take responsibility for your life. Take responsibility for your life. You know, a lot of folks are victims. My parents didn't raise me up right, or somebody did this, or somebody did that. And really, it's not so much what happens to us, it's what we do with our life that matters. In John chapter 5, verse 6, it says, when Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, he asked him, do you want to get well? Well, what is happening? Well, Jesus is in Jerusalem for a Jewish feast. He goes to this pool near the sheep gate called Bethesda. And people would come and sit around this pool. It was a large area. And the idea was that every now and then this pool, the water would stir, just seemingly out of nowhere. And it was believed that an angel stirred the water, and the first person that got into the water when the water was stirred would be healed. So all these people with different ailments would come and they'd sit around, and as soon as they'd see the water stirred, boom, they were jumping, doing everything they could to be the first one to get into the water. And so Jesus walks up to this man, and he asks a question for him. Do you want to get well? What a question to ask. Said he was an invalid for 38 years. For 38 years. Do you want to get well? Well, of course. Wouldn't somebody want to get well? But you know, not everybody wants to get well. Because if we're not well, then nothing is really expected of us, is it? And some people get in the habit of having nothing expected of them. Some people don't want to put forth the effort to get well. It's not something that's just going to magically happen. It takes some effort. Some people just don't want to put forth the effort to get well, and some people have given up hope of ever being well again. So the question, do you want to get well, isn't as far-fetched as maybe it sounds like. There could be reasons why the man didn't really want to get well, or had given up hope of it. Notice some interesting things about this encounter. The man had been an invalid for 38 years. This was one man among many around the pool. Why did Jesus pick him? We don't know. Jesus saw the man and approached him. The man didn't approach Jesus. Jesus is the one who initiated the contact. Jesus asked him that interesting question, do you want to get well? But the man doesn't answer the question. He just says, no one helps me get into the pool. I have no one to help me. And they've had this conversation, and remember, this has been an invalid for 38 years, and Jesus tells him to pick up his mat and walk. After 38 years of not being able to walk, so there's no anointing oil, no special event. Just after 38 years of not walking, just get up and walk. So the man's got a decision to make. Take Jesus at his word and get up and walk, but could it be possible he's lost all hope of ever being well? And all his hope was in that pool, and this isn't the pool. Somehow, he stood up and walked. We know where the power came from. The power came from God to give him power in his legs to walk. But somewhere in him, there had to be something to cause him to make that effort. You know, sometimes God calls on us to do things. And he says, do you want to get well? Well, then do this. Well, wait a minute. I don't know that I want to do that. Well, do you want to get well? It was very illogical to ask a man who had not walked in 38 years to get up and walk, and take his mat. That made no logical sense whatsoever. And you know, sometimes God's going to tell us to do things that are not logical. So I want you to go do this, but I can't. It doesn't make sense. That's not going to work. So anyway, maybe God is talking to you and telling you, hey, there's something he wants you to do. There's a man named David. David opened a package one day, and this package exploded when he opened it up. It was sent from the Unabomber, and if you were alive at the time the Unabomber was sending these packages, you'd be familiar with that. But David refused. He could have been a victim. He was severely injured in this. But he refused to see himself as a victim. Instead, he did what he could. He said, these were David's words, says, when you encourage a man to see himself as a victim of anything, crime, poverty, bigotry, bad luck, he says, you are piling bricks on his chest. He said, when people looked at him and they just felt pity for him and they just gave him every excuse in the world, he said, no, I do not accept that. I'm going to take responsibility for my life. Yes, that shouldn't have happened to me, but it did. And you know what? I've got to deal with it. So he just moved on. We live in a sin-damaged world. Jesus said we're going to have troubles, but he said he has overcome the world. Are there things in your life that you're struggling with that, this just makes life harder? It may have to do with your health. You may not be able to leave home. You may be in a wheelchair. Maybe you've lost your sight. Maybe you've lost your hearing. Maybe there's something going on. You may be paralyzed on one side, or maybe totally paralyzed. And it's going to be real easy to say, you know what? I'm just a victim and I can't do anything. And as difficult as it is to realize, you know what, there are things I can do. No matter my situation, there are things I can do. But it takes courage. And that's why Jesus asked, do you want to get well? See, there's some of us that we throw a pity party for ourselves and we're doing nothing. We're doing nothing. You know why? Because, this happened and that happened. And I'm sorry. One of these days we're going to have a new body and all those things are going to go away. But we have to deal with it right now. But Jesus says, do you want to get well? Then do this. And he will not ask you to do something that he doesn't give you the strength to do. The man couldn't get up on his own, but Jesus gave him the strength to get up. Whatever Jesus asks you to do, whatever God asks you to do, he's going to give you the strength to do. And you know what? It's amazing. It's amazing the strength that we have. We don't realize we have. So are there things that you have been neglecting to do that because you're a victim, because you don't have the health, you don't have this, you don't have that? Are there things that you've been unwilling to do? Some people who can't hear at all write notes to people. Some people who can't see call and talk on the phone. Some people who cannot get up and go someplace by themselves, they can call on the phone, they can write notes. You can do something. The question is, do you want to get well? We must take responsibility for our life. This is temporary. We have a whole eternity to enjoy perfect health. But right now, we got to put up with what we've got. So the question is, will you and I take responsibility for our lives the way they are? Have a good day.